Today we're going to draw a cute little stork in an Alsatian costume. So I'm going to be using the iPad in Procreate, but feel free to use whatever you have, even if it's just a paper and pencil and pen and some watercolors or color pencils, that's perfect. I'm going to try as much as possible just to show you the process of drawing this stork, and you can take the materials you have and do how you want. So I already have my sketch drawn out. I don't know if you can see it very well, but I'm going to show you with a rough sketch of the shapes for the stork. So I'll make a circle, a triangle. We're going to have his little hat here. Then his long neck coming from the back of the head. Got in his circle. We're going to add an imaginary oval for his body, another oval for his wings, and his legs will just be two long lines, and his feet. So these will be our basic shapes for the picture, and we're just going to kind of make it up a little bit nicer. And we're ready to begin with our lines, our real lines. So you can either start with a pencil or a pen, whatever you feel most comfortable with. Here we are with our head. So if you want, you can keep the very rough sketch that you just did quickly with me. That way you kind of have an idea where your shapes will be. So the hat is just two parallel lines, a little bit curved, little curved lines the sides and another curved line for the top. For the neck, I'm continuing the line of the head with a circle and continuing his neck down all the way to the wings. His beak, we have our long, very long triangle. I think the longer it is, the cuter it makes my stork look for his bill. So for his neck, we're not continuing exactly our strokes from our sketch because I'm going to add here a little shirt. So I just make like a little triangle neck, and with his little collar shirt, we're making him a little white shirt with pockets, or kind of like a little vest, you could say, with a few buttons. Actually, maybe it won't be white. We'll see what color we make it at the end. For his wings, we're going to start with his wings. So he'll have big feathers at the end. I think that's what defines a stork as well. They have long black feathers. And here I'm going to make smaller, little shorter feathers. You'll see why in a little bit. Here's his body. Here we'll have his tail. We can kind of continue with the feathers, but in the back. Here I'm going to make little triangles for just before his feet. His legs. Now we can make the long, tall lines all the way down. I'm making him a little kneecap here, just for cuteness, and I go a little bit thinner towards the bottom. This little kneecap, and I go a little thinner towards the bottom of the leg. And for his feet, we're just going to go one curved line, another curved line. This one is going to go all the way to the other side, and we will have one in the back. One in the back, and then one in the front, and one in the back. And there we have our very simple little line art of a stork. You can erase your rough sketch, and we're ready to move on to some coloring. So for the coloring, I'm going to use not totally black, but sort of a grayish black. So if you have a black, you can either color it very light or you can use a dark gray. I'm making a new layer underneath, and I'm going to go ahead and color the part of the stork, part of the feathers, the bottom part of the feathers. I'm leaving a little white towards the edges. I'm coloring as if I had a color pencil. That's what my brush says. It's a pencil. It's a rusty pencil. But I wanted to make it as easy for you as possible if you're using typical material, which is more readily available than maybe an iPad. If you have an iPad, you'll probably be used to already the basics of Procreate if you have that program. Anyway, so there we have our feathers, and I'm going to make a little bit of the edges of the tail as well, and kind of like with curved look. Leaving off a little bit of white, that way we can tell when the next feather comes along. Here, maybe a little bit as well. And I'm going to go ahead and make his hat the same black color, almost black color, because that's kind of the color of the costume. I'm going to leave a little bit of white so we can tell one part of the hat from the other. And I color the same direction of the shape of the hat. I think that's a trick to coloring, making it look good. All right, we have our wings done. Not totally done, but for now, we're going to start with all the flat colors. Next, I'm going to pick a reddish type of orange that we're going to use for our bill. So if you have choices for your orange, you can either use just a normal orange. If you have a reddish orange, a little bit darker, you can go ahead and use that one. If not, don't worry, it's not totally necessary. Any orange will do. And we're going to go ahead and use that same orange for our legs and feet of the stork. Again, I make sure to follow the shape of what I'm coloring. So here it's long strokes. It's a lot easier than going up and down, for example. Okay, and we might make his little shirt maybe red. I'm going to use a new layer just in case I want to change it. Red is kind of an Alsatian color. So I'm making this an Alsatian stork because I live in France, in Alsace, which is Strasbourg, Colmar, some of those bigger cities. I live in a little tiny town, but those are the real known cities of Alsace. There's some other very cute towns as well, very touristic little towns. If you're coming to visit Alsace, if you're part of here, then you know the typical Alsatian costume and dress already. And if not, well, I'm still learning. I'm still enjoying everything that I see, every new thing that I learn. For his little collar, I'm going to make maybe a little bit darker, a little dark, very light actually, a light blue, almost white. But I don't want to make it totally white because our stork will already be really white. So this helps to stand out. Anyway, the Alsatian colors have lots of red, lots of black, maybe dark blue or dark green. So that's why I'm adding these colors to his shirt. And I'm making a little pattern on the bottom of his shirt or vest. Something like that, just for fun, I think. Maybe I'm gonna make a darker blue and make him a little pattern on his shirt as well. And his collar, a single line. I don't know if that's very fitting. It just adds a little bit more. Now I'm going to choose a gray, kind of a light gray, so you can get your pencil, very light pencil. And I'm going to make some little shadings for our bird. So a stork is totally white, but I think by adding a little bit of shadows and shade to the feathers, for example, like this, I'm just going to the curved lines and adding some little strokes. First I add my little curve line and then some little strokes. I think it helps my feathers to kind of stand out a bit more, maybe a little bit on the side as well. And I'm going to also add, just draw freehand a few little curved lines like this to show more feathers. If you want, you can also go to your lines, to your black, and where we left off the little white, I'm making that gray, as well as one line in the middle. Kind of makes it look feathery, I think. So if you don't have a light enough gray in your color pencils, you can just go ahead and use a white color pencil, and that should help come out a little bit more. All right, moving back to the bird, I'm going to give him a little bit more shape by adding a little bit of shadows, which you can just follow along. I'm just going to the corners of the bird or the places underneath. For example, his little shirt or vest is underneath, so I'm adding a little shadow there. The wing is also on top, so this part of the body can have a little shading. And I'm just adding very simple little strokes. I think it helps my bird kind of stand out, make him a little bit more 3D looking. And here I'm going to color in this part, his leg part there, and a little bit here too. Behind here, I'll color it also gray. Moving on to the head, so underneath his neck here, I'm going to follow that same line and then add little strokes all the way to the bottom. And even a few under here, under his shirt. Then under his hat, I draw the line, and again, few strokes underneath that. All the way to his shirt. So it kind of makes his neck stand out, kind of also makes it curvy looking. His head, just make a little bit of shadow here. And a little bit under the eye, maybe a little. And we have our little bird body. So all these little lines kind of make it look a bit fluffy and feathery. Moving on to the bill and the legs. So here's the color we had. I'm going to choose a red or a very dark orange. And I'm going to, so you can use red, dark orange, or brown works too. I'm going to go the curve from the head like that, and the corner underneath, and again just the bottom. And then I'm going to lightly do little strokes to help his beak come out a little bit. And same with the legs. So the legs, I'm doing the bottom part, or the top part right here, and one side of the legs. Here along the bottom, sorry, top, bottom, I mean under this part would be the bottom. It's kind of behind. And this foot is a little bit behind as well, so I'm doing a little bit more shade wherever there's a part, something going behind or underneath. So we don't see so much difference, but if you notice how it was before, you will notice quite a difference actually. I'm going to choose a yellow. You can, if you don't have a yellow light enough, you can also choose a white. And I'm going to add just on the opposite side of my shadow, a little highlight. I think the highlight really adds to the picture. A little highlight of yellow. If your yellow is not light enough or doesn't show up on your coloring enough, then just use a white. That will work just as good. And for the bill as well, just on the top, you can have I do one line and then I do again a few little strokes towards the middle part. There we go. For his vest, it was red, and I'm going to choose a lighter red or even pink. Actually, you could use orange or pink. And I'm going to do a very, very rough, very soft little highlight. Again, it kind of makes it stand out a bit, right in the middle. Kind of gives it a little bit of texture as well. And I'm going to go with a dark red. So either if you have a dark red or brown, to give the sides as well, or the parts underneath, a little bit of shadow. So I'm putting a little bit under the pockets, like this, a little bit under the collar, maybe this part of the shirt that is behind, and the sides a little bit, under his collar here as well. Kind of makes it stand out a bit more, maybe a tiny little bit under the buttons as well. Make the buttons stand out. And for the pockets, because they're blue, I'm going to go ahead and make almost white. Again, a little bit in the middle. And the same with his, just a little bit in the middle of his shirt. Actually, I could make it even lighter. And I'm going to end with his hat. So I have the black, and I'm going to go for a gray. And again, a little bit in the middle. This is our highlight. Kind of like where our light source is coming from right the middle. And if you want to, you can choose a very dark black for the sides, if you want. So you just would go a little bit like this towards the middle part. And there we have it, our cute little stork in his Alsatian costume.